Good morning, everyone. I request Mr. Devan to take the grade A warehousing session. Thank you.
Thank you, Banu, and looking forward to a very exciting conversation. I don't know how many of you attended. The morning session was very exciting. And with this, I invite all the panelists. I'll just give a brief introduction. I have Mr. Vineet Majgaonkar, Chairman Armstrong. Then we have Mr. Viresh Rao, Vice President Construction, Loda Group. Then we have Mr. Mahendra Vagule, Head of Project and Development Horizon Industrial Parks. Then we have Mr. Sarvanand Srinivasan, Senior Director, Jones Lang LaSalle. I just saw Mr. Jeffrey Tan, Head Group Corporate Development and Group Technology, YCH Group. Very, very esteemed panel. Looking forward to a very exciting conversation on this very fast evolving sector, also known as grade A warehousing. So what the session is expected to do, and we will discuss that over the next 90 minutes, including question answers in the end, is to talk about some bit of past, but focus will be more on the future. And that's a conversation that I've had with my esteemed panelists before. That just to give some numbers, and we were having this conversation in the morning session, that in India, we were behind by about 10-15 years when we traveled all over the world. We, some of us, those who've been practicing this sector and have been in this sector, we have seen the evolution from 20-30,000 square foot of godowns. And what we today talk about is world-class infrastructure of 1 million square foot kind of a building. Building being one of the most important raw materials for good operational effectiveness, and no different than what is being practiced anywhere in the world. So we have, as we discussed in the morning, a global scale, which we are all now almost there. The other part, which is a very big, I would say, contributor nowadays in any design, is the sustainability. And the third one is obviously the technology. These are the three big themes which will keep coming again and again. And I'm expecting some very, very exciting conversation which will give us insights. And as people who are participating in this growth, how do we make the next 3, 4, 5 years very, very fruitful for all the endeavors that we are busy with. So without wasting too much time, may I request Viresh to begin with and give us his opening remarks. Viresh.
Yeah, thank you, Devan. Good morning to all my panelists here and all my colleagues from the industry. So it's a very interesting topic, is that how the entire evolution has started from what is so-called a godown, which is primarily for storing of goods, to today a world-class amenities of a warehouse, which is also very friendly to with all the amenities. See, primarily, I am associated with the warehousing since 2012 onwards, almost 10 years only into warehousing. And I have seen, I mean, obviously I was working in one of the project in Bhiwandi for developing a 200-acre project. And this was a ground warehouse over there. And elsewhere we had a lot of old age storage. Primarily storage is for goods. I mean, you have a roof, a metal roof or asbestos roof, 4 walls and an exit and an entry, and probably some light and ventilation. The purpose was to store goods. And I say that the entire evolution from a godown to a warehouse is not in respect of the goods. I think it is more for the people. That means we all realize the entire industry. I come from a design and pre-construction background. So entire fraternity thought that other than storing the goods, the important factor is the human factor, that how friendly we are making all these warehousing space into a space where all the youth, the young generation, and the people from elite college, now they are coming and joining this industry. Earlier, we were struggling to get people. The only reason is that I would say the warehouse what today we design, right? The entire fraternity design, execute is as good as any officers in since I'm from Mumbai, I'll speak about Mumbai. Any offices from BKC, Mandrakurla complex or Parel or South Mumbai, you enter into a warehouse, you go to the office, you go to the workstations, you'll find out, you'll be mesmerized to see that it's an equal standard to any of these, high posh areas. So the entire evolution has been surrounding the human requirement, that yes, you need space for storage, but that is primarily, I would say, rather it has become a secondary. The primary reason of evolution is involvement of, the human needs. So I have seen wherein 10 years back, we used to say, okay, the mandatory requirement from the BTS client is standing seam. Today, everywhere we have a minimum standing seam, minimum 5% as a roof light. The insulation, obviously, the ambient temperature inside the warehouse plays a major role. So today, from a 3 mm bubble insulation to double bubble 8 mm insulation, and today all my clients comes and insist on either having a rock wool or a glass wool. So this is the evolution which has taken place. Again, as I said, goods plus human requirement. It provides a lot of ambient temperature. Warehouse without insulation and with insulation can provide up to 8 to 11 degree, depending on whichever location we are or season we are. The second thing is, in the entire industry, we'd say that the heart and the soul of a warehouse is the floor and the roof. So non-leaking roof and a sturdy floor. So talking about floor, we have evolved from a normal quota stone or a VDF today to FM2, or in fact, FM1 and DM1 also. One of the warehouse which currently we are doing, it's a 17-meter warehouse where the client has decided to go for a VNA kind of a racking. It's a very narrow aisle, and hence the height of the warehouse is 17 meter at the eave, almost 24 meter at the center. So these requires DM1 floor. So otherwise, probably 4 or 5 years back, we only used to read articles about DM floor, okay, created somewhere in the country or probably outside. And today it is happening everywhere. The third important aspect is from the green perspective. That's again, a lot of changes happened. So today, a lot of companies go for IGBC or USGBC, and they mandatorily go for the solar roof, whether it is your LED lights and any of these STP requirements, a lot of stress on reducing the heat island effect. So all these things have become mandatory from a government, probably statutory point of view, but more from an ESG point of view. A lot of corporates have taken responsibility that yes, that's our responsibility to see the warehouse what we are occupying compliant to these requirements. We have evolved from a non-fire compliant to today a completely fire compliant. We talk about KT, then K115, K60, K160, and today we are talking about K360, ESFR compliant warehouses, all the infrastructure compliant to NBC, NFPA, or even FM Global. So all these things have become a requirement. If I look back and I see that the client used to come to us with a build to suit requirement document, but today all the specifications, in fact, we are happy that some time back, the Gati Shakti has also come out with a handbook, which spells out a lot about the specifications required for grade A. And I see that the RFP of the client, when I read, I find that the standard warehouse, what we are constructing, almost complies to 95% of the requirement. Only the differentiation in terms of the lighting requirement for lux or maybe for the mezzanine requirement. So that is to say that the entire transformation has taken from what we call as only a storage to a place where people come enjoy. In fact, I would say that one of the projects what I have designed for a Malur, for decathlon, it has every sports amenity. You talk about basketball, volleyball, table tennis. You talk about beautiful canteens, workspace, meeting rooms. Anybody in the corporate would go and envy that why are they not working in such a beautiful place? And I think that is what the entire industry, or the awareness among all of us has brought the change. Over to you, Deven.
Thank you, Viresh. Now I'll invite Mahindra to add to whatever Viresh has said. Mahindra.
I am fortunate to be part of this whole evolution from day one kind of stuff, because I am the part of the industry since 2011. I've been working in the same field, which is logistic park development. So I used to be earlier associated with Indospace, and then I am now currently heading this projects and development for Horizon. So when we were initially starting, like Viresh rightly put, it is all go downs, and it was very hard to sell a grade A warehouse at that point of time, because nobody was trying to understand. Eventually, over a period of time, we established what grade A specs are, what it means, how does it value to the customer, what value it brings to onto the table. So whether because the awareness of FM2 floor, awareness of flat floors, the performing concrete. Earlier, people used to do M25 concrete. Now we migrated, the whole industry has slowly migrated to M35 and all high performing concrete surfaces, because it's the floor is not only one FM2, but it has multiple factors involved in that floor. What kind of how the finishing is done, what stages and what materials being used, how the construction joints are planned, how many factors go into the detailing. How do you do the curing, how do you finish it, what kind of sockets that you do. All this put together makes a good floor. And people over the period of time have evolved there are a number of applicators who are there in the market who are evolved over the time. And I'm happy that now the entire industry is recognizing the value of a grade A warehouse. Pardon? Yeah. So similarly, there are too many components in a warehouse that contribute to a grade A, like Videsh summarized. So whether the foremost is the roof, the floor, the ventilation inside the building. Whether when you talk about ventilation, there are 2-3 components that goes, like insulation, whether what kind of insulating materials, which part of the country that you are putting up the warehouse, then what is the material that you are applying. So what grade of whether it is glass wool, rock wool, or bubble wrap. Probably currently there is very less traction on that, because the glass wool and rock wool gives good amount of acoustic properties as well as the thermal properties. Secondly, the air ventilation. I mean, the air changes that happens. So people, we need to work around that to find a good solution to air ventilation, which is the air changes that happens to be inside the warehouse. How much air openings that we are providing such that the air enters into the building, and what kind of opening that we are providing such that the air exits the building with the hot air. So that is again an important component for comfort feel inside the warehouse, so that people working in the environment are not feeling it and heat island effect, and they are easy in handling their operations inside the warehouse. There are multiple now further evolution in this industry is happening in terms of what kind of material coatings on the roof, what kind of colors or SRIs, solar reflective index, how to gain minimum amount of heat, what kind of how much heat that you are gaining inside the building. So when you go for certifications where much awareness is currently happening in the world of ESG, that is environment, sustainability, and governance part of it. So when everybody in fraternity is currently discussing on these topics. So when you talk about environment, what kind of environment are you providing inside the warehouse for people to operate, for people to move in around? So the more critical component over there is there natural light available inside the warehouse? Are you consuming additional light when daylight is required? Is the warehouse properly ventilated? What kind of other systems and processes that you are putting in place so that the performance of the building is at the peak performance in terms of ESG components? So what kind of light fixtures are you putting in? Are you using the power efficient light fixtures? Are you automating the light fixtures that whenever the person is there only, that light fixture operates. So likewise, progression in the specifications is there, awareness of the specifications is there in the market, and that is much that is much appreciated. So unless there is awareness in the industry, the value to the specification is not there, and it is ultimately benefiting the end users who are the occupiers of the warehouse. Another larger component currently that we all grade A developers are focusing on is the social cohort. So warehouse, as we are saying, that as any other commercial building occupies around 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people in a complex. Similarly, these logistic parks currently are accommodating these many number of people. So when we are in the commercial complexes, when we are talking about the comfort for this, to create an environment such that people like to go to work on a day-to-day basis. So these are the things that are coming up in the developer's mind: how to make life comfortable, how to make the environment comfortable for people to think that yes, I need to go to the job on day-to-day basis. So we are creating such kind of environments. So as we are trying to do multiple things over there, creating green spaces, creating proper all parking spaces, solar roofs, creating some recreation facilities for the employees of end users over there. So multiple things are coming up on the board to discuss. Again, the industry, we hope that the industry accommodates it in a better way, and that becomes a practice such that we take care of people coming into the logistic park. The second thing is, again, from the drivers or all the people who are affected, the community that is affected, the community that is utilizing the spaces, not only the end users who are occupying the warehouse, but the community that is serving the warehouse, like the drivers, the transport industry. That we need to be discussing comfort or the services required for them as well. So that is another part that needs to be added on to this standardization or grade A warehouse that currently we are working upon. Yeah, Deven. So these are multiple factors that constitutes a grade A warehouse, and probably we, as an industry, I'm happy that again we had a session last fortnight with Warehousing Association of India. We were discussing on, Viresh and I were common part on that forum there, discussing technical specifications of grade A warehouse, wherein the e-handbook was released by Warehousing Association of India as part of that program, and that is where we see there was a good amount of recognition from the government sector also in pushing up this standardization. This standardization or the standardization would help the industry. So if grade A specifications are finalized and broadly accepted, then the end user need not to worry if anybody is giving. So they need to focus on their core operations of warehouses, and then the rest of the things has to be taken care of by the developer or whosoever is putting up the warehouse. They are creating that facility. So then that becomes a given thing as, oh, these things are supposed to be there, and then they need not to worry about it. That is the end user that would get benefited out of such standardization. Probably also I propose to have some certifications, okay, whether this qualifies as a grade A warehouse or not, somebody to evolve sooner and certify that, okay, these are these warehouses we have checked and systems are found in place, the specifications are in place, and yes, we certify that this is a grade A warehouse kind of stuff. So probably I think no sooner it will evolve over time, and that would be further benefited for the customer. Yeah, Devan sir.
Thank you, Mahendra. May I invite Sarvanan now to share his views?
Thank you, everyone calling us for this wonderful event. Probably I would go on a small presentation, which will probably give us some kind of an idea where we are at currently in the grade A space and what are all the demand drivers kind of things. So I'll just put up this for Hope the screen is visible.
Yeah.
Yes. So I would take this opportunity to probably share my view, and being part of this industry since 2006 onwards, working with various developers and the government bodies just before the evaluation or probably the transformation started. In fact, 2006-07, when we started working in this sector, when the new capital was probably started evaluating India as a change for industrial development. As I think Viresh and the panelists shared the views that earlier it used to be one of the support function of an industry, and today this is a main business enabler. The way how the industry or businesses seeing warehouse as a part of their business is probably changing. And as we see the demand or the occupiers probably who are the ones who started insisting on this change and transformation, very well the industry and developers have started probably adopting to the change what is the need of the hour. In the past 1 decade, the most sought out asset class in the investor community is warehousing and logistics. And people always look at warehousing logistics in this past 1 decade as a high income yield asset class. And not only from investments in India or investors in India, we also see a lot of funds, developer funds across the globe chasing this asset class. Some kind of a statistics what will probably give you understanding is in 2018, when probably we normally track about the supply and stock for major 8 cities in India. So 2018, where it stood around 170 million square feet, and today we are in the end of 2022. The statistics stands on H1 2022. We are about 307 million square feet of total stock of development, organized, built, leased facilities. So this shows the significant growth in this industry. And as we see, grade A space keep growing, and grade B spaces are in parallel. Whatever we see, the old aged buildings are probably considered as grade B. But if you look at any new building, any institutional investors or large corporates which are picking up the development, considered to be grade A warehouses. So this categorization probably done in various parameters of building specifications, as our panelists have already shared. The specifications keep evolving again time to time. Every year, if you look at the industry, the actual users keep improving the specifications. 2018-19, if you look at any building which had a 12-meter height would be considered as grade A. Today, most of the occupiers are insisting on, or warehousing or e-commerce occupiers or 3PL occupiers, insisting the buildings to be around 17 meters, where they can have multi-storage rackings, and the capacity of holding goods in this buildings, the cubic meter consumption. So they are able to use the space more effectively and efficiently. So that is actually increasing the specifications. And some of the large e-com occupiers keep reviving their specifications every 6 months. I would probably, I hope my panelists will agree on those things whenever time to time these requirements comes in for build-to-suits in this space. So the major demand drivers in this industry is going to be or continue to be e-com, 3PL, and now retail. Omni retails are probably the talk of the town, and large retail formats chains are taking space, and they would want to do directly lease those space in major cities. This probably give you a little more understanding about the absorption, net absorptions. If we look at here, continue to grow in the grade A space. And we see CAGR of somewhere around 28-29% each year from grade A space. are all spaces which are considered under construction or in various stages of construction, which will hit the market, are considered to be almost, depends upon the specification, or a grade A space. The vacancy levels in grade A space keep diminishing, decreasing every year. So the grade A specification buildings today, if somebody wanted to occupy ready to move in facilities in the market, very few which we can count on. The space, average space take-ups in grade A keep increasing. About 30,000-40,000 square feet it used to be in 2015-16. Today we look at the grade A space take-ups or occupiers looking at about easily about 1 lakh square feet or 150,000 square feet to be absorbed. So in the market, ready to move in buildings, about less than 7% of the buildings are available vacant, and which are under various stages of discussions with various occupiers. So that's the kind of a demand what we see in the country, across the globe as well. We see probably this industry will by 2025 will have about 500 million square feet of space across various major cities. That's a demand which we are, and currently we are almost 307 by July, and we should be somewhere around 320-25 million square feet by end of December. So great growth in this industry. Some specifications, I think we have already seen. The growth in grade A space, what we see about 28% CAGR, as the growth what we see across the warehouse asset classes. And average space, what we have discussed about the cubic meters and the capacity increase in each large format of buildings. So some of the very notable specifications are, as earlier said, is the flooring and roofing, and mostly livable conditions. And as we see the human capital which involved in godowns, and today a drastic change in terms of the quality of people who are involved in the warehousing space. Earlier, it used to be unskilled laborers who used to be working on it. As we move on, each warehousing today has been managed, and well technology adoption, we see semi-skilled employees are in place, and mostly all the occupiers and developers are in synchronization to provide them workspace which is probably at par with any other office or commercial buildings which could offer in the city. So keeping them in wellness is very, very important. And not only people who are working in the warehouses, also the support staffs and enablers like truck drivers or people who come, especially the some of the integrated industrial parks which has grade A spaces, will have like any other commercial buildings, will have crèches where daycare units, and which takes care of the social infrastructure as well. Not only within the building, what takes care of the infrastructure is most important, and how comfortable people who can come in and work in this space. So that's again one more determining factor. So as we see the technology specification increase, are we seeing the yield and probably the investment and return coming in from the space is attractive? Yes. Some of the very notable funds or investors are looking somewhere around 9 to 10% of the yield from the asset classes over a period of 3 to 5 years or 5 to 10 years period of time. And the rentals in this space continue to grow, but it is not growing at par with what commercial spaces or other retail spaces are. But for whatever the reasons of increase in land cost and construction cost, this rental yield probably is not giving that kind of an attractive returns. But however, since the demand continues to grow, where the developers are in position to find probably a considerably lower cost land options, where they are trying to neutralize with the transportation costs and other costs, but not probably compromising on the quality of the construction. This asset class is probably anywhere between 9 to 10% IRR yield, and the rentals are between grade A spaces somewhere around 23 to 26 rupees average across the across India, and we see this continuously growing about 3 to 4% year on year. And we need to wait and see how the government is also supporting in terms of improving the connectivity and route infrastructure. If that comes in handy, probably the investments returns in this space would probably attract a little more. So grade A warehousing evaluation, if you look at, we discuss about that normal average space take-ups from 80,000 square feet to about 150, 180 or 200,000 square feet. And some of the large retailers or e-commerce giants are looking at this as a fulfillment centers, which probably the areas goes beyond about 500,000 square feet or 1 million square feet in a market where the demand is high. Apart from that, if we look at the technology adoption and ESGs, most of my fellow panelists have already described this going to be the major focus from the developer side. Also, the occupiers who are going to keep on insisting in this sustainability and social care. Definitely, that's going to be an important aspect to be covered here. This grade A, grade B warehousing growth, and also from the push from the government, the national logistics policies, tier 2, tier 3 cities are probably gaining momentum, and we see the investment probably flowing in tier 2, tier 3 cities as well. Again, thanks to the retailers and e-commerce giants who are looking at last mile connectivities across, and developers are started probably looking at it. This evaluation, we have to be giving credit to mostly the occupiers and also the institutional funds who are focusing on compliances of the building and putting up large infrastructure, which is enabling and keep fueling this growth in this industry. So this probably gives you understanding about industrial investment or investment into the warehousing space. We see from 2020 and 21, the growth in logistics sector has considerably grown, while the total investment decreased. But in the sector, the investment from FDIs as well as from within the industries, and especially the developers started looking this as a prime asset class to be invested. We see continuous growth here. And last year, we have seen large format funds have invested in this, like portfolio acquisition, starting from Morgan Stanley, Maple transactions in Pune, and Blackstone have probably acquired a portfolio across India from Alcargo and Embassy, which is a large acquisition investment in this industry, which is really encouraging. And as we see, ESR has continued to be working on Indospace as one large developer across various regions, investing in various development of integrated logistics parks, which is improving the industry in India. So impact on national logistics policy, there are two major impact what we observed really. This is going to, as the government is taking a lot of steps, it is going to increase the infrastructure and the boost of infrastructure, which will give comfort to institutional investment and capital, access to the capital, large capital, which is required in this industry. These are the two major things. And government is also continuously talking about industrial corridors and logistic corridors. If there's going to be in the near future, in about 5 to 10 years timelines, we're able to integrate industrial and logistic corridors, which is going to be a major boost for India, and the investments which are coming in from various industries, which will help growth in this space. The trends, what we see, the dark stores, again, the retailers who are probably looking at last mile connectivity wanted to have city-based storage spaces, which will be the next probably the set of growth which we can see, while the real estate costs are continuously increasing. But the demand from retailers are continue to grow. Multi-story warehouses is again going to be one more area where all the developers, funds, and government has to be working together and integrate this. While India is not a landlocked area, there's plenty of land available. We see the growth in this multi-story warehouses or planning is a little slow. But going forward, as the city landscape is keep on increasing, we don't have a choice that we will eventually have multi-story warehousing for in-city distribution. That's going to be in the near future, while there are a lot of scouting around land for development is happening. The real transactions or probably investments are yet to come in. And the request probably from the industry also unlock some of the government-owned land areas where they can help or probably put it across to the private usages and attract investment to develop some kind of multi-story warehouses. Omni-channel retailing, we talked about this, and most of the retailers are going around and exploring this in the industry. And we see continuous growth in this, and this will be majorly to control their cost of distribution and operational cost. We see more number of retailers who would be looking this and taking it on their own and probably putting it across to the 3PL operators. Cold chain, again, one of the notable developments which India still need a lot of investment in this. Very selected operators are operating in this area, but we see considerable growth coming in this from the institutional investment going forward. So as of now, these are the things which probably I leave the floor to the team.
Thank you, Saravanan. May I invite Jeffrey to talk about what he sees in his group and from where he sees what is the kind of view that is visible to him. Jeffrey.
Hi, sorry. Okay. Yeah, just give me a minute.
You are logged in from 2. Yeah. Now it's
okay. Yeah. So sorry about I thought the panel is starting at 3 p.m. So I was toggling between another meeting. Yeah. Apologies. Yeah. So thank you for inviting us to have a conversation in this Grade A warehousing space and in India, and also on our views on the new national logistic policy that was actually recently announced a couple of months back. And I actually had the privilege of having that interaction when Minister Piyush was here in Singapore over the lunch with him on this, and how Singapore companies like ourselves could actually be very much contributing to the development of the national logistic policy, and also the developments in India regarding the warehousing space. So allow me to share a bit on this. I was preparing some slide, but I was actually rushing over it. So maybe I would share it later. But at the present moment, let me have a few points that I would like to add on the developments of the Grade A class warehousing in India, and also on the fact that what are we doing in the region, which actually we find similarities in the development of the multimodal logistic parks or the multimodal logistic hubs in India itself. So allow me to share that YCH, for those who do not know us, we are a Singapore homegrown logistic company, supply chain solution provider to many of the multinational brands in the world. including the likes of Dell, P&Gs, are currently our key anchor customers in what we do and currently here at YCH. And YCH has been developing warehousing facilities to run our operations as an operator in many parts of the world, including India, of course. And we actually had the privilege and honor of building the first green certified warehouse in India, in Chennai. That was back in as early as the early 2000s. And that's where we actually start to enter India. And the hub today has been serving the likes of Dell and other multinational companies very well. And recently, we even have a further expansion on the facility itself to cater for the growth that India is facing and the growth of the footprint that our customer is in terms of business that's actually happening. So as we are moving towards the next stage of the development, we are now looking at much more complex and bigger developments in the region. And of course, we always have in mind that India is one of the most critical or most important market for us to actually venture our infrastructure investment. So we have seen many examples of grade A warehousing facilities besides India and also in other countries, including China, in the Southeast Asia region. I would say that the classification, there are some similarities, but yet at the same time, they are also quite disparate in their own way. A few key things to note includes is the location of the warehouse definitely has an impact to the classification of the warehouse itself. It has to be a very well connected warehouse in terms of transportation. So connectivity is going to be the key, which is one of the very important criteria for the warehousing space in terms of, if there's some standardization to the grading of the warehousing, this is where it's one of the critical factors. The other part that is important is, I would guess, the technology or the deployment of a best-in-class infrastructure. When I say best-in-class infrastructure, it doesn't mean just the civil engineering part of it alone, as some of the specification has been stated by the earlier panelists and speakers regarding how it should look like, in terms of the warehousing space in nature. But there is also a very huge factor on the deployment of equipment that actually, or I would say automation, that actually supports the warehousing facility itself. So one of the example that I would like to quote or illustrate was we actually in Singapore here, for those who have not visited us here in Singapore, we actually built one of the best in class supply chain logistic facility called the Supply Chain City. And it's a fully automated warehouse, but yet there is a very good contrast between the traditional warehouse, the rack and stack warehouse, which actually built with all the necessary infrastructure. But also we have the fully automated storage retrieval system. It's one of the largest demonstration in Asia. And this is where we actually showcase the 66,600 over pallets position on 100,000 square feet space, which traditionally you probably need about 8 times the space to build a traditional warehouse to have that kind of palletization position. So this is where it actually shows a clear demonstration of a best-in-class warehouse, where it actually combines the use of the traditional warehousing space together with the state-of-the-art storage and retrieval system. But that also doesn't stop there. So what we actually further on took it to the next step is that we actually have full integration with the using a conveyor belt system to link the traditional warehouse and the fully automated storage retrieval warehouse. So it actually brings the level of the warehousing facility to the next stage, where customer now, when they look at this warehouse, they know that they could enjoy the flexibility of the traditional type of warehouse, where you actually have the rack and stack to bring your cargo in and out at a much faster turnaround time than putting it into an automated storage retrieval system. Yet there's a very compact storage where you could put away your inventory for a longer period of time. And at the same time, we actually put in AGVs for forklift to run the traditional part, together with the drones that was deployed in the warehouse for stock cycle counting for inventory. So this is where it actually brings the level of the warehouse, in terms of status and classification to the next stage, rather than purely looking at pure infrastructure, as one of the criteria. And at the same time, what runs behind is the digital part of it. So in terms of the software that's been deployed to orchestrate the flow, material flow in the warehouse itself is also one of the key consideration, the way I look at it. Of course, I will not add on to what the previous speaker had mentioned in terms of the height, the flooring and all that actually brings to the classification of that. But what maybe I want to share with the audience and also the people who are attending this is about what could we actually look at together with the NLP that has been announced, and also along with the multimodal logistic parks that has been even before when the NLP was announced, there was this move in terms of building multimodal logistic park in India. If the host will allow me to log into the other screen, which I'm requesting right now, I will share a few slides, which will then let our audience have a perspective of what we are doing in ASEAN, in Southeast Asia country, for some of the multimodal international dry port development in Vietnam and Cambodia, so that that will actually set some of the reference point for India in terms of building this multimodal logistics park. Yeah. So if the organizer will allow me to enter using my other notebook. I'm still waiting. Okay, connecting. Just give me a couple of minutes. I'm in. Okay. Thank you very much. Joining with the audio. Okay, allow me to share my screen now. Okay. So on the screen, what you see is our one of our projects that we're working in Southeast Asia under the ASEAN formation. And I believe that India will view ASEAN as also one of the very key market where it comes to trade and connectivity. So in 2018, when we actually launched the ASEAN Business Advisory Council project, legacy project for the Smart Growth Center, we start to build smart growth centers that are modeled after the supply chain city in Singapore that we have developed and operate for more than 5 years. In the first project that we actually launched was the Vietnam Superport project. So the Vietnam Superport project was launched in the backdrop of the formation of the ASEAN Smart Logistic Network. And this is a key project that was actually announced when Vietnam was chairing ASEAN in 2020. The Vietnam Superport is the first largest logistic project invested by a Singapore company in Vietnam. And this project actually went into groundbreaking in 2021. And this happens all during the pandemic period. As you see on the next screen, this is the conceptual model of the Vietnam Superport project launched under the ASEAN Smart Logistic Network Initiative. This is a multimodal logistic park where it's actually connected by air, road, rail, and sea in a single location that is located in the inland of the north of Vietnam. This is where we actually demonstrated the capability of a multimodal logistic park and the capability of an international inland dry port. As you can see, when the rail is connected, there's a rail cargo terminal, and this is an international port code location, VNVSP, where cargoes and containers could be nominated in the entire process to this location. And custom clearance integrated service zone is actually located here. And this is where the rail and road is being connected to the deep sea port. And in this case, the deep sea port acts as a transit gateway for containers to arrive in this location. And with the warehousing facilities that are built along this becomes an excellent transportation hub where these warehouses will actually then have the advantage of being located in a well-connected hub. Of course, then they will give them a grade A kind of a status as one of the criteria in a grade A warehousing. And of course, at the same time, there is an air connectivity here where we're looking at where the location is very near to the capital airport of north of Vietnam. And this is where we actually have an off-airport cargo terminal location where electronics, cargo, pharma is being consolidated onto the ULDs. that will be loaded into the ULDs and being sent onto the airport within 20 minutes distance and loaded into the aircraft belly, and all custom clearance actually happen in this single location. Of course, in this facility, we'll put in our supply chain city as the main orchestration of the cargo workflow. What you see here is an annual handling capacity of 850,000 TEUs, and of course, looking at the air cargo capacity of 200,000. This is where we actually have an entire footprint of more than 234 square meter of warehousing facility located in the north of Vietnam and in proximity to the 20 industrial parks that has been located in this location. So the ASEAN Smart Logistic Network aims at building a smart logistic infrastructure across ASEAN and creating bankable logistic infrastructure in partnership with the multilateral development banks and also the DFIs that will be helping us in the financing and the technical assistance in actually developing the project. And this aligns with the ASEAN Connectivity Master Plan 2025. As you can see, the World Bank, IFC from the World Bank has actually endorsed and actually partnered us in this journey to develop the ASEAN Smart Logistic Network. And they had come in as a technical assistant and the lead financer for this project itself, endorsing the importance of such a developmental project in ASEAN to beef up the entire ASEAN connectivity and also economy. We didn't stop there. We actually have this year, when Cambodia was chairing ASEAN, we have launched the ASEAN project under the Cambodia Chairmanship, the Cambodia Superport, or also known as the Phnom Penh Logistic Complex. And we actually have progressed the project with Indonesia and also Philippines. The formation of the ASEAN Smart Logistic Network will happen by 2030, and this will actually give rise to the entire logistic infrastructure standards, and also the supply chain resiliency within ASEAN itself. So this is a short sharing that I have, and happy to take any questions later on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeffrey. We will have time for questions, and I am sure there will be questions on this in the end. May I now request Vineet to talk about the intra-logistics, the other important element which adds a lot of value and brings a lot of speed and accuracy to the entire operations. Vineet.
Right. Yeah, so Jeffrey, if you can stop sharing. I'll just,
I already,
yeah. Okay, thanks. Is my screen visible?
Not yet.
No, not yet.
Start.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for having me on this panel here. I'm Vineet Mazgaonkar, co-founder of Armstrong. We are into warehouse, robotics, automation, and technology industry. And since our subject today is about grade A warehouse, I think a grade A warehouse just can't be complete without the robotics, automation, and technology piece in it. We started Armstrong in 1999. That makes me feel a bit old, but I just started very young. And we actually started building first automation pieces for warehouse in India in 2001. And that's how, since then we have been building automation and robotics for warehouses. And I practically represent the history of automation and at the same time, the future of robotics and automation for India. Saravanan mentioned various numbers. I'm the proof of those numbers, just to keep it short. Armstrong is today a company with about 1,100 people. We are India's biggest intralogistics, warehouse, automation, and robotics company. So that's a brief intro about me and Armstrong. Today, I'll be talking about how India is leapfrogging and its journey from touchless to the lights off, or dark warehouse, as we call it today. Let us first of all ask ourselves the question that why do we need grade A warehouses? And I'll just kind of summarize a few ideas here when it comes to, so I'll today stick to only the robotics, automation, and technology piece of the grade A warehouse. My other colleagues, panelists have already covered the other aspects of it. So number one, everything starts and ends with customer experience. And about 8 years ago, 2014, I remember was the first time that in one of the CII conferences itself, I stated this omni-channel experience. And since then, this entire industry has been trying to wade its journey towards this omni-channel experience. I think earlier, through a single channel, we have today come to a stage we can talk about multi-channel, but omni-channel is still a dream that we all are trying to accomplish. What is a customer experience? Well, whether it is generation X, generation Y, generation Z, or Z+, understanding this customer's mindset and delivering a delightful customer experience is all that we're striving for. And that is the whole reason why we must have grade A warehouses. The second important reason to have grade A warehouses, business sustenance. All the businesses who are dealing with high volume, high variety, or high value of the products, or a permutation and combination of either of these three things, for them, not having robotics or automation or technology is a sustenance challenge. I'm making this bold statement. I'm trying to challenge that if you have high volume, if you have high variety, and if the value of your items that you're handling is high, you cannot sustain, but without robotics and technology and automation. What do we exactly try to achieve to deliver these two things of customer experience and business sustenance? Number one, achieving high level of visibility. So what is visibility? High precision in count, your inventory count, the quality and condition, high visibility in the quality and condition of your products, and extremely high visibility in the location of your products. The more accuracy you have in the count, condition, location, the highest kind of visibility that you would have, and that is what actually sets you apart from your peers. The next most important point of or advantage or benefit of robotics and technology for a grade A warehouse is velocity. Warehouse is no more just an inventory holding kind of a space, or just a godown as we used to call it in the old days. Warehouse is a part of delivering high velocity to businesses, speeding up the time to market, increasing the inventory turnaround, and having enormous transit flexibility. If you are dispatching an item from, let's say, Mumbai to Gurgaon, and then you have some in-transit redirection to that particular item, you should be able to hold it somewhere in between and redirect it to Kolkata. So that in-transit flexibility. So all this can be kind of delivered, and all this should happen at a very high speed and high precision. So visibility, velocity are the two important things that we are all struggling to achieve. There are some other things also which are equally important that a robotic and technology piece delivers or brings to this grade A warehouse. Number one, it brings down the cost of poor quality. We all know in India that there used to be a time when people would just deploy more number of labor and try to get their work done. But we all know the hazards of just deploying a big headcount and then training them, controlling the quality of their work. That's a big challenge. We all know that. Though the cost of labor in India may not be at par with Singapore or Europe or US, but there is a cost of poor quality, and we must recognize that and eliminate that with robotics and technology automation. Second important thing is space. My colleagues spoke about the heights of the warehouses, and I'll address that again in my next slide. But let me tell you that we are heading towards a 1.5 billion population. Our landmass is not as big as China. Our population is already going to be the world's biggest in a very short span. So our population density is very high. We are already struggling for lack of space. And if we do not go vertical, we will not sustain. And the definition of vertical here, I'll slightly try to kind of correct the definition of vertical compared to what was said earlier, my colleague panelist said. So about 7 or 8 years ago, people would talk about a 12-meter height of a warehouse. And that was supposed to be a good one. About 2 to 3 years ago, this definition has already changed to about 25 meters. And this year, 2022, all the automation requirements that we have received in Armstrong, we are India's biggest intelligence automation company, all the requirements that we have received have a warehouse height of 30 meters in that range, 33 meters. I would sincerely like to appeal to all my real estate warehouse colleagues here that if you are building a warehouse for future, please, please, please build a height of at least 40 meters. When we first approached for one of our customers for a height of 40 meters, the reply that we got was that the government still doesn't have specifications for firefighting, for the fire norms for that height. And we have to all collectively, the NLP and all, we have to quickly get the government to speed and get those norms in place, because globally we all know that 45 meters is a very, very, very normal standard height, whether it is Singapore, whether it is Europe, whether it is, not much in US, but in all those zones where the land mass is a challenge and space is a challenge. The moment you go taller, you cannot do that without robotics and automation and the technology. The next piece is safety. There's no discussion on safety. I think it is equally important. So first of all, when you reduce the headcount to 1/4, I'm talking completely in Indian context. There itself, your 75% challenges of safety are over. Beyond that, the automated systems, our robotics, these are what extreme, so level 4 safeties, which kind of ensure that even if a human wants to intentionally cause some harm, that can be still prevented. That's the kind of high level of safety that we incorporate in our robotics and automation systems. We all also know that while we talk about this 25% CAGR, there is a heavy resource crunch, though our population is increasing, but we still have a resource crunch, and there is a great challenge on skilling. So all this is addressed by robotics and automation. And last but not the least, once we deploy all these parameters that I just spoke of, the warehouses automatically become more and more sustainable, which is the need for our future generation. I would slightly touch upon how the warehouses have evolved globally and how are they evolving in India. And I think in the same slide, I'll address both global and India trends. And as I said, I represent practically the entire span of last 22 years of warehouse automation evolving in India and the global projects that we are doing. So we know what's happening in future globally. So number one, ticket size has evolved. So globally, about 5 years ago, a large ticket would typically mean about $20 to $30 million. I'm talking about USD. Whereas in India, a large ticket 5 years ago would mean about $2 million. In the last 5 years, I forget before that, because 15 years before that, large ticket would barely in India mean $500,000. So I'm just putting a financial number to the ticket size. Today, globally, a large ticket definition is already touching about 200 to 300 million. And I can give you some proofs of such projects. I think there's one celebrated project of Landmark Group in Dubai of 210 million US dollars. And it was commissioned in 2018. The similar projects are coming in, more and more projects are coming in South Korea to the tune of, 200 to 300 million dollars. This is happening on the global scenario. In India today, when people talk about large tickets, they typically they come back to us with the ticket size. I'm talking about, again, automation ticket size, right? I'm not talking about the construction, the land or anything. I'm purely talking about the robotics and automation ticket size. So in India for us today, we typically come across inquiries or our RFQs typically are ranging from 20 to 50 million 50 million USD. That's the ticket size of the large ticket size of warehouse automation in India as of today, which was, as I said, hardly 2 million, 2 to 5 million about 5 years ago. That's the kind of change in ticket size that has come. The next piece of evolution, I would say, is the technology piece. Let us touch upon the technology piece. WMS, WCS, WES, these are the words which unfortunately our industry has been using interchangeably, but these are not interchangeable words. We can have a separate session on this to understand the layers of differentiation between WMS, WCS, and WES. But for now, distinctly, I must say that just as a very overarching 35,000 feet view, WMS is that piece of technology or a software that you can still use in a warehouse without having practically any automation or robotics in the warehouse. You can just classify it that way. Whereas WCS and WES are those pieces of software technologies which essentially go with that automation, the robotics piece, the automation piece, the conveying, the sorting piece, all that stuff. So this is the basic distinction. 5 years ago, people would typically call WMS, WCS, and WCS, WMS. Today, we have started understanding this distinction between the two things. When we talk to the customers, they have started understanding this distinction. And the WMS and WCS have come to a seamless kind of merging level as of today. We did the first Industry 4.0 project in which we got the WMS to talk to our WCS and through WCS to the PLC and the automated system in 2012 in India. So when the Industry 4.0 word was coined, that was precisely in the same year. The word was coined globally in the same year. We had already installed a project here in India for a retail company to solve their complexity. Today, this has become a norm. What is still very nascent is the artificial intelligence piece or the predictive analytics, the machine learning, the deep neural networks. So for the last 2 to 3 years, Armstrong has already started deploying these AI and predictive analytics algorithms, which help you predict the trends and based on trends, help you take some actions. 3 years ago, we had already seen in the media that Amazon has deployed a tool in the US and to predictively start moving some material from warehouse A to warehouse B, from let's say east to west, in anticipation of the order, when even you have not placed your order, but in anticipation. So their AI algorithms have been tracking your behavior from the big data all across the internet. And by virtue of which they know your intent of purchase before you yourself actually purchase goods. So that's the kind of power that this AI and predictive analytics is bringing to the table. I think the next 5 years, this space is going to be substantially growing in terms of technology. The next piece, we come to the inbound automation. In inbound automation, typically we have very mature solutions thriving in India now about yard management systems, which speed up your vehicle or fleet turnaround time. Globally, it is well settled. Then there is dock automation, wherein we have numerous examples. There one was your FSC, where we brought down 36 docks to just 4 docks when we automated them, and a vehicle, destuffing time came down from 2.5 to 3 hours to just 40 minutes. So these kind of paradigm shifts, and then imagine the fleet release time that you have when your vehicle holding time goes so down. So there are so many numerous other benefits apart from the direct benefits of quick turnaround of inventory. So typically in inbound automation, then you have quality control stations and tools, and then you have dimensioning weighing systems, you have put away systems. All these technologies are thriving for the last 5 or 6 years, already installed in India in all grade A warehouses. Then I come to the next piece, which is about the storage and retrieval of goods from from the inventories. And here there has been a paradigm shift in the last 20 years, I would say. If you take the timeline from year 2000 to, let's say, 2015, I may dare to put a number of about 150 stacker boats or stacker cranes installed in India in those 15 years. 100, as I said, 100 to 150 in 15 years. Now cut to, if I bring down the timeline from 2016 up to last year, that is in the next 6 years, there were another 150 cranes installed in the last 6 years. And friends, if I may share with you, I mean, of course, I cannot share the industry or customer names, obviously, but next year alone, we, Armstrong, are installing 50 cranes in 2023 in India, and I know that some of our competition who are also collectively installing about over 150 cranes. So next year, 2023, there will be about 200 to 250 cranes getting installed in this great country now, and this is the dawn of evolution of this grade A specs. And all these cranes are in the height range of about 28 to 30 meters, wherein you know that your warehouse heights have to be 30 to 33 meters when the crane is about 28 to 30 meters. So look at this evolution in terms of automated storage and retrieval that has happened. I gave you time frame of entire 20 years. So what happened in 15 years, then got repeated in 6 years, and twice the volume is going to be repeated in the next 1 year alone. That's the kind of pace that we are looking at in terms of storage automation around us. Then I go to the next piece, which is sortation. If you see this classic great machine behind as my backdrop, which Dr. Bhanu today thought is a picture, but it's not a picture. I'm actually sitting in my office and factory office, and this machine is a live machine behind me. It's a double-decker cross-belt sorter. And in sortation system, there are loop sorters, linear sorters, PTS. So this double-decker sorter already has a capacity to sort, to have a throughput of 48,000 parcels per hour. So, I mean, where are we here? Just 5 years ago, we were talking about 3,000 parcels per hour on a linear sort. Then 3 years ago, we started talking about 8 to 10,000 parcels on a loop sorter, single-decker loop sorter. Last year, we installed at Armstrong, 15 loop sorters with a throughput of about 12 to 16,000 per hour. And today, we are here, next year, we are installing these double-decker sorters with a throughput of 48,000 per hour. Look at the evolution that this technology has done. So this automation is both a combination of fixed and flexible. We are also deploying very seamlessly our autonomous mobile robots to address to the seasonality for the customer. The demand in AMRs, which was anecdotal about 5 years ago, today has become a part of a compulsive solution. So to address your seasonalities, AMRs are looking at now SaaS models, SaaS-like models, rental models. So sortation in a way is also evolving drastically. People are no more there is no sustenance left for physical manual sortation at all. The next part of evolution, I would say, is value addition. Globally, warehouses are known to add value in terms of assemblies, packing, labeling, etc. In India, this piece is still nascent, but I mean, it's catching up. In the last 3 to 4 years, a lot of automotive RFQs are kind of very welcoming for us, who are setting up ASRSs, along with which they have, assembly stations and all that stuff. So this whole lot of value addition is also a piece of automation and robotics in warehouses. And the last bit is outbound. Now, in the interest of time, I would say that outbound is more or less the reverse of inbound for now, but it's not that simple, but I'll just cut it short for now. Well, I've already explained you India's path towards world-class warehousing, so I'll cut this one. And I wanted to cover a little bit of status of the A-grade warehouse in India, but Deven, in the interest of time, I'll stop here, I believe, and then over to you, Deven.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deven.
Thank you, Vineet, for a lovely way back in 2007-10, we started the journey at FSC. And I remember when we put a crossbelt sorter, the entire country came to see, how does a crossbelt sorter look? They had only seen it in the books. Professors from IIMs also had only read about it in the books. They had never seen something in action. And we were able to, just for the knowledge, we were able to get the cost of supply chain down from about 6% to close to 1.5% at about 30,000 odd crores. At that point of time, it was a significant saving.
That's a great number, Deven. Thanks for sharing.
And Vineet, I'm sure you were fully involved at that point of time, but I can tell you that even in our own company, people were disbelievers. The building itself was 5 lakh square foot in Nagpur, first time, and obviously had the most modern put to light, pick to light, and crossbed sorter was laid on top.
One small piece, Deven, sorry to interrupt, one small piece since you brought this subject about the footprint. I remember that was the biggest size at that point of time.
Correct.
5 lakh square feet, and this was about 10 years ago.
Absolutely.
But the definition of big size has also changed.
Yes.
Today, Deven, when RFQs come to us, the definition of big size has become 2 million.
Yeah.
1 million is also today considered to be a moderate size. So,
No, in India,
I would also want you to update a little bit of data.
Yeah. So
and my
right
other
now,
colleagues.
we are looking at our typical logistics park is about 3 to 4 million, except that in our case, we have 3-4 buildings because, single customer. The idea is that some of that, and that is one of the questions that I'll have, but I think first let's address the questions from the audience. Just a minute, let me see. So questions from audience, will multimodal logistics parks improve warehouse efficiencies and improve these economies in terms of operating costs involved in business logistics? Who wants to take that? Jeffrey, are you available?
So then I'll attempt that.
You take that. I can also do it, but we need just, yeah.
So basically, we need to understand two things separately. One is the intralogistics automation piece, and second is multimodal. And the most important point right now is that's again the way of the future, and this can't happen without government's kind of involvement in it. We need to build multimodal hubs, basically. And once the multimodal hubs are built, we need to then automate. So right now, for each type of modes, there is a different type of automation piece or robotic space involved. And once we evolve a footprint of a multimodal hub, I think simultaneously, we all have to sit down together and put together those pieces of automation. So for example, port automation, JNPT, I have been working on some initiatives at JNPT. So the way they look at automation is much different from the way you at FSC would have looked at, or you at Stellar are looking at. It's obviously very different. So I think yes, but it will optimize the cost dramatically. Yeah. That is for sure. Because at any point of time, the software platform, and here I would rather like to use the word software infrastructure, because this is not the job of the software platform. And infrastructure gives you the heads up about what is your cheapest way of moving material from point A to point B at the fastest speed. And then the entire automation system at the back end kind of routes. So that is called a sequencing operation in our outbound language. I cut short my outbound a while ago, but in outbound we call it the sequencing. So the sequencing has to be automated, managed in such a way that it is not addressing to single mode now, but it is addressing the multi modes. I think, and that will drastically bring down the cost. Yes.
Yeah, to add to what Vineet is saying, the stated objective of the NLP 2022 is that we bring dedicated freight corridor combined with, and in fact, that was the original idea at Mihan also, where we say that air, rail, and road combined together, make it accessible. As we all know, supply chain's main objective is to reduce the touch points. So the number of times you touch the cargo in its entire movement, and that if you optimize, I think it reduces the cost. So the major initiative of MMLP, and there are multiple projects which have already been given. This is one of the big initiatives that I think all of us can take advantage of in the ways in the coming days, because India has been a road freight dominant market, and there are multiple types of projects. One statistic that I still remember when we were discussing the policy with the government is that if there are about 700 railway sidings, if we open, we will start saving some 5 to 8 crores per month right away. It is just the last mile from a railway siding is not able to connect, that we are, we have to unload the cargo, bring it into a truck, then from a truck again back into something. And if these are the kind of small interventions, that itself will release crores and crores of wastage that is currently happening in extra handling. And I think that is the stated objective. The various policies and the Gati Shakti program are supposed to obviously unlock all that value and bring down the wastage. You had somebody had raised a hand. Viresh, I think you want to say more.
I think just to add on, I would also probably look into some government policies coming over here, wherein they would restrict that the in-road movement of the cargo should be limited to certain kilometers. I mean, as we speak about multimodal, so you have various modes, whether it is by the air, by your sea, by your rail, by road. Today, a lot of load comes onto the road infrastructure. I mean, major accident happens on the road because of a lot of truck movements. So we should probably come with the policy. The entire industry should have a self-governing policy where they say that if the travel distance by road exceeds so much by so many kilometers, then preferably we should switch over to a rail. Obviously, as I think Vineet and Deven, you also mentioned that we have to have an infrastructure first. You have to have an entire multimodal ready, and then certain things can be implemented at the entire industry level.
Yeah, and I think one of the directions is that dedicated freight corridor where the trains will move at double the speed, the wagons will be double-decker, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of work happening there, which we should see. I will quickly jump to the second question, which I have understood it as that how will the automation impact the blue-collar job market, the floor skilled workers? So, Vineet, I'm sure this is a question that you get asked
Yes.
quite often. So, please.
Yeah. So I'll mention what Henry Ford once said. That if people would ask him, if you would ask the people what he should do, they would say that people would ask for more faster horse carts, and he would never make cars. So I think let us go back to that era, and when the entire world was operating with horse carts, and then we moved to automobiles. So I think that. Deven, the three things: volume, value, variety, and high volume, high value, and high variety, and a combination of these. So e-commerce is a classic case where you have high volumes, where you have high variety like 10 million SKUs, and where you have high value like iPhones and whatnot. My question to the person who's asking this question is, what options do you have? Do we have any options? I mean, you just can't manage your show when you are looking at a country like India with 1.4 billion population. So I think, okay, then what happens is the person who is sitting, who was excellent at riding a horse, now has to learn driving. And we collectively have to start skill building schools. In fact, at Armstrong, we collaborate with a lot of third-party labor suppliers to train their labor on our machines. And we participate in their programs. Our people, our officers, our engineers deliver lectures to them. We also create access for some of our live sites where these people can go work for 1 month. We give them, we take these ITI people, train them hands-on. So my reply to that would be, get these people, let us all collectively upskill them, teach them how to operate all these systems, automated systems, and in the process, make their life easy and make all our lives easy.
So I'll add to that, and I have personal experience of this, that in India, there is a unique man-machine model. In fact, in the morning session, Manish was talking about that in China, they use almost 3 to 4 times the manpower that is used anywhere in the world for assembly. And something similar we had attempted in our past, where we did not eliminate, and that was not the intent of automation in the first place. The intent of the automation was to become a complement to the man. So the unique man-machine model that is relevant to India is something that I think Vineet is mentioning, and that's the way to go forward. The idea is not to eliminate, the idea is to bring a higher level of skill and a training, which will make the man equally, in fact, more responsible and accountable for speed as well as accuracy, and at the same time make his or her job much, much easier than what otherwise it would have been. So I think the direction is pretty clear. Automation is there for us to make use of and make the time to and the cost to market become that much more useful and efficient. Any more questions?
On this, Devin, I would also once again like to circle back to the data that you pronounced. And Mihan is that live example. You said from 6.5%, you brought down the cost to 2%. I think proof of the pudding is there.
Yes, I agree. So any other panelists want to speak about any comments, any questions?
One small bit, Devin, I have to just like a closing remark.
Yeah.
I want to appeal to all the consultants here on this forum, all the real estate builders here. Haath jod ke, please build your warehouses to a height of 40 meters. 25 outdated guys, and I swear that in 2 years' time, you will thank me for asking you to build a 40-meter warehouse. Just in 2 years.
I am going to pay the rent in any case. I am paying the rent in any case, so please go ahead. I am willing to pay the rent.
Yes.
Vineet, the only from a Vineet probably will take it offline, but in terms of statutory understanding with the authorities and all that stuff, we need to do some bit of understanding and.
We have to go back to the government, and like the skyscrapers in Mumbai have gone up, we have to take the warehouses also to a 40-meter height, and this.
So that correct. That exercise probably we need to run in parallel to make them understand what kind of protection systems and stuff are there, and we can take it forward.
Last few minutes, I would request Viresh, and after that, Jeffrey. Viresh.
Yeah, I think I'll respond to what Vineet said. I agree that a vertical warehouse has to come because land is a scarce resource in a country like us, where we are almost 143 crore people here. So I think in same direction, I would like to say that one of the project what we are doing in our Lodha Palava project, it's a for sketchers building. The eave height is 17 meter and center height goes up to almost 24 meter. Right, and I personally am a big advocate for vertical warehouse. I have been to countries like Spain, Germany. I have seen all these automated warehouses, 30-40 meter warehouses, wherein not only the cost of construction comes down. The reason simple is that the entire the racking structure of these automated warehouse itself supports the roof and the side cladding. So you don't need a building of a conventional building and then going inside and the tenant comes and they do the racking. So it's a combination of a racked clad building. And I mean, not only it reduces the capex by almost 20-30%. I was also involved in one of the design of such warehouses. So I have personally worked out these numbers, and it also saves a lot of operation cost. Now, just to address another aspect is that what happens to the manpower if we are going high warehouses automation. I feel that today, I see that all these younger generation from any background, they are all going to school, they are all going to college, and the skill set what they are going to develop may not be the manual skills. So over a period of time, automation is needed, and these young guys who are going to come need to be provided a better opportunity than only a manual skill. So I feel that all these vertical warehouses, automations, it is going to bring a positive change. I don't feel that there could be job cuts or people may lose out jobs. So I'm in support of the.
And I think that perhaps the rent you might get 5 rupees more on the rent for the developers. I'm saying you could claim a 5 or 10 rupees premium on the rent as well, because the storage capacity is not double. from 25, you could easily claim a premium of, let's say, 30 rupees a square foot. And so good insights in terms of, capex going down as well. Thanks.
Jeffrey?
Yeah, I guess what I heard so far, I think I'm very supportive of the higher and taller warehouses to maximize the amount of land that's being used. Of course, India is a big country that is abundance of land, but we should not be, so extravagant to really waste the land space. And what has transpired over the years is that we are seeing that the automation in the warehouse, the maximizing of the capacity in the warehouse, besides being land conservation, in terms of saving land, it also brings what the other speakers has highlighted in terms of efficiency, where we actually look at how efficiently you could operate with minimum manpower. In the case of we actually deploying a 50-meter high warehouse with half of it being, or more than half of it being run on an automated storage retrieval system. What happened during the pandemic was an excellent example. If we have not invested into that facility during the pandemic, we were required a lot of labor that has been going back, to their hometown during the pandemic, and you couldn't get any people coming into Singapore for labor, foreign labor, to actually help in the warehousing space. At the same time, we also want to create a new appeal to the talent, talent pipeline in this industry. As we want to make this logistics supply chain sector what we call sexy again, to attract young talents. If you imagine coming to the warehouse, you are just carrying boxes, driving forklifts, that's kind of boring. But if you're flying the drones, you're moving the robots, you are doing the automation, you're running a very high-end, fully automated warehouse, you will be able to attract very good talent, coming into the warehousing, logistics, supply chain space. This is extremely critical and crucial. And I want to also add a last point to that entire development of the warehousing and also the multimodal logistic park in India, that it should try to then relook at the reference model that has been happening around the region to then be able to develop better logistic facilities, taking reference from what is happening around the world. At the same time, the connectivity in terms of the land location or where the warehousing facilities are being located is going to be very critical. I guess one of the problems that India may have to overcome is the ownership of land, which currently is a bit lacking, because what are the lands are being hopped up by private owners and not owned by the government in this case. That actually sort of created a lot of hurdles for development of good connected multimodal logistic hubs, that will be able to help to streamline the entire flow of logistics flow and orchestration of goods moving within entire India itself. So this is one of the problems that I find that as we look at the entire model moving into India in the multimodal logistic development is going to be very critical. And I believe the next challenge that India will face is actually the consolidation of the small, little, not efficiently run warehouses that are located all around India, which we are also culprit to some of those, of the way that it has been developed. So whether the government, in terms of the national logistic policy, is able to come up with mandates with legislations to really consolidate small warehouses into large fulfillment centers that are seated on multimodal logistic parks and multimodal logistic hub development is going to be very crucial in the next step of that development. Otherwise, it doesn't change any fact that, there are still a lot of these unorganized warehousing facilities are running all over India. Yeah, I'd like to add that as my last point. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I would just like to kind of close as we are already at the end of our session. I think all the panelists gave the view as to how the future is going to look like. All of us had a very, very clear view possible, available, already there. You saw some of those conversations around automation, around buildings, around the quality of the buildings, as it was discussed also in the first session. And I can also tell you from my personal experience, when we started on the journey of modernizing supply chain few years back, and we traveled all over the world, we saw that we are at least 15-20 years behind, and we started doing some of those things. In the last 10 years, I think we have caught and we have covered a vast distance. In the last 2-3 years of pandemic, I could see that we have jumped at least 4 or 5 notches. We work with variety of players on the e-commerce side and all that. The kind of work that we have done, I can tell you that in the next 3 to 5 years, we will be at par with the world, including in multimodal logistics park. I see a conviction in the government also, and I have had the privilege of connecting to the various ministries and the way they are working today. I don't think this kind of work was there in the past decade. So while we may have lost time, but now what we are going to do in the next 4 to 5 years in all the aspects that we discussed today will bring us to the same level as to what is available in the world anywhere. And that, I think, is the firm resolve not only of the government, but also of the multiple players who are in this ecosystem and are all working and converging towards a new modern warehousing ecosystem in India, which will deliver for not only the consumer customer, but also the entire ecosystem in terms of investor, developer, occupier, fund manager, etc., etc. With this, thank you very much, all my dear panelists, and I am sure CII will make us available for in case people have any more questions. We'll be happy to answer them. Thank you very much. Over
Thank
to
you
you,
very much.
Dr. Bhanu.
Thank you very much.
We'll resume back at 2 o'clock with another interesting session titled Emergence of E-commerce and 3PL as Key Drivers of Modern Warehousing Demand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.